Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to present to you an exceptionally talented and multifaceted individual. A true luminary I've had the privilege of holding court with, Richard Mofe-Damijo, known as RMD. He's not just an actor, filmmaker, politician, or a barrister, but also an entrepreneur, a leader of men, and yes, a king amongst kings. With a career spanning over 4 decades, he's graced countless stage plays, movies, and endless television productions. Amongst his many achievements, RMD starred in the Netflix feature film, The Black Book, which proudly claimed the title of the third most watched film worldwide in 2023. His contributions have not only given wings to the Nigerian film industry, but have also provided a resounding voice for all talent to shine unapologetically. Please, join me in extending a warm welcome to Richard Mofe-Damijo, affectionately known as RMD. Welcome to Oris Surgery, RMD. Okay, Sir RMD, I need you to pronounce your name for the new generation, those that have seen your work. For a lot of these kids out of Korea, China, Japan, Russia, the heat is on. They want to know one thing. How does he pronounce his name? They know we call you RMD. They know it's like Gucci on an outfit. They know it's like Louis Vuitton. Listen, I'm waiting for the clothing line. I'm waiting for the clothing line, RMD. I can't wait for that. So they need to know how to pronounce the name.
Okay, so my name is Richard Mofe-Damijo. The Mofe-Damijo is like a compound name, Mofe-Damijo, but you can also call me Mofe on its own. Most people call me Richard. People who know me from way back home call me Mofe. But
Yes.
A lot of people usually who can't pronounce the names just go with my initials, which is RMD. So it has become like my name now. So I don't mind, being called RMD, Richard, or Mofe-Damijo. Potato. So whatever fits, whatever rocks your boat, man.
Yeah, see, I like to call you King Richard.
Thank you.
Richard Mofe-Damijo, but I like to call you King Richard.
Thank you.
I don't know about the other stuff out there, but you are my King Richard because where we come from, we treat our elders. We call our elders very different names. We call them uncle, we call them chief, we call them king, and that's just our tradition. So it's been there before Hollywood, before Nollywood, as you know. Now, King Richard, this is interesting because I came through the music industry, fashion, TV commercials, then into acting. Your path is different. You were a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, I was first an actor before I became a lawyer, though. Yeah. So my path. Yes. So my path really has been clearly that of an actor. I've always wanted to be an actor, and I've always been an actor. Now, I became a lawyer officially in 2005. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 2005, which is 18 years ago. I became a lawyer. In my old age. My first degree was in theater arts, which led me into my path officially. I graduated from the University of Benin in 1983, which is 40 years ago. So I decided to go back to school in 1997 or 98. I just wanted something different. My mother always wanted me to be a lawyer, and so in 1998, I had suffered a tragedy 2 years before then, and I decided to throw myself in something different that will take my mind off the tragedy that I suffered, and that was how I ended up in a law school in University of Lagos. and I went to school, to University of Lagos studying law for 6 years. And after that, you are mandated to go to the Nigerian law school for another 1 year. So you actually have like 2 degrees. I got a degree from University of Lagos, which is like an LLB, and then you get a BL from the Nigerian law school. So yes, I'm completely, I'm fully a lawyer as well. But I don't litigate. I don't go to court and all of that. So I do commercial transactions and mostly intellectual property things. So patents, copyright things. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you, so while all this was going on, were you interested? So you were an actor first, then from that you went back to school,
Yes.
then back out again.
Yes.
So we're talking 4 decades as an actor.
That's right. That's right. Post graduation. Yes. Complete.
Wow.
This year made it 40 years post graduation since I've been working, since I've been grinding as an actor. But
Yes.
in all that 40 years, I've done all kinds of things. I've been in advertising. I've been in the communications business. I've also gone into governance. I was a commissioner for culture and tourism for 7 years. I was a special advisor on tourism as well for 1 year. So I did 8 years in government, came back out and became a private citizen again, and I've been grinding since then. 2015, I came out of government in 2015 after 8 years, and I've been grinding again back as an actor. Sometime lawyer, and sometime consultant in all kinds of intergovernmental relationships. Sometimes communications director in different things. But never ever leaving the acting field, which is my core being. I love being an actor. I would love to clock in as an actor in the morning and clock out as an actor in the evening and nothing else.
Wow. This passion, it now it makes sense. It really, really makes sense because I wanted to ask you now, studying law, was that also another extra skin to make you dig into characters and personalities? And also, you being in politics, where you sort of use it as part of your personal study to dig and dig more. And each day, you go into this world where you just like collected data, psychological data. Let's explain.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I mean, look, so it all ties in, right?
Yes.
I go to do law, not necessarily to become a better actor, but my decision to stay within the performance rights, copyright issues, and patent is also that I can still keep benefiting from being an actor or being a performer. And so I made sure I knew and studied things that related to the performers' rights, right? To know what an actor's rights are, to know what musicians' rights are, people in the performing arts, especially. And, you can't help but always find a nexus, a connection, because not long after, recently, like a few years ago, I did the first legal series in Nigeria, which is Castle and Castle, and I played a lawyer, and of course my fellow actors will say, "Well, you are not struggling because you're already a lawyer," like, oh, you don't have to do much to know what you need to do and and things like that. Of course, I've been a lawyer, having trained formally as a lawyer, and now you are having to play a lawyer. It's there are things, of course, that you have as an advantage over those who are just actors, right? So because I don't have to do any research, I'm already researched. I've been researching and being prepared all my life for the role of being a lawyer who is not playing an actor who is not playing a lawyer. So that was a walk in the park for me. Uh, if I have to if I have to play a politician, I would have to I would have to research as well, or call up on some of the images of politicians that I've had to interact with in the last 8 years that I was in government and all of that. So yes, those things they do enrich your life as an actor, because as an actor we are constantly drawing on images and on things, that on sights and sound that we see and we encounter on a daily basis. And I have lived a very full life. My trajectory as an actor started from the stage. I have always loved the stage. I mean, at the time that I was in Nigeria studying theater, the stage was everything. Yes, I did some television and film work, but it was mostly in the on the theoretical level, not practical level. So stage was the more consuming practical things that I did. So my love for stage still, carries me till today. There is hardly a year that when I'm actively in theater, in doing films, that I don't create, 1 month or 2 months for a stage play. In the last 3 months, 3 years, I have been on stage every year. There must be a stage play that I will just run off to do for a while and come back. This year I have done a stage play already. I did a stage play in October. Yes, I did a stage play in October this year. So in fact, I've done two stage plays this year. Last year I did two stage plays as well. So every year, next year again, I'm going to try and squeeze in one or two stage plays. So it was from the stage that, of course, my first television producer saw me and said, "Oh, I love how you act. Have you ever wanted to do television?" I said, "Of course, yes. I mean, I'm just waiting for the right role." And it was from stage that they gave me a part, and I started appearing on national television in Nigeria, and the rest, they say, is history. But stage, I will always squeeze in stage. I love to do Broadway someday. I love to do the West End. I've done plays on the Fringe in England. I performed a Nigerian adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth at the
Yes,
Shaw Theatre in the 90s. No, sorry, in the
correct.
late 80s. In the late 80s. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Interesting, because I was back in London from Nigeria as a kid, 81, 82.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 81, 82. So we used to live by the young and the old Vic. So your name was kind of circling around that world,
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
yeah,
I think it was you and man from the Lion King in South Africa. It was just a core group of Africans
yes, yeah.
coming in. So then it didn't click a bell until later on in life, and which is why I want to ask you this: do you remember the first play and what that transition was for you from the stage to the screen? What was that transition for you for the first time?
It wasn't a problem for me because as a student of theater,
Yes.
you are told specifically that acting for stage is different from acting for the screen. So it's never been a problem. Transiting is like going from one character to the other. So I've never had any problem with transiting from theater to the screen. So because I still do it every now and then. I still cross back and forth. And I'll tell you why it is not a problem for a Nigerian actor. Usually, I mean, up until recently, we always have problems with one of the biggest problems that Nigerian films had was audio. Audio was always a challenge because we never really shot on in studios. We're always working in live locations. And working in live locations in Africa means competing against generators, street noise, and everything. So even with film, with a lapel mic on you and a boom mic on top of you, they will still say project. So we used to speak in very loud, tones and all of that. So even for film, so it is only when you're working in very ideal conditions that you now bring in film that you bring the tempo down. And our stages are not as the acoustics. They are not as the acoustics are not as good as you will find at the Old Vic or at the Shaw Theatre or any of those good theaters in England or in America. So we've always had to, Nigerian actors have always had to train their voices to be able to project, at every point in time. So if anything, it is for theater, for film, that I have to carefully watch my gestures to reduce them and my voice to bring it down because especially if I'm working abroad, I'm not working in a place where I'm competing with the sound of generators or traffic noise. So you don't have to project your voice, beyond the necessary conversational levels. Yeah. So, but to answer your question specifically, I really don't have a problem transiting between stage and film or film and stage.
And that's very interesting. You say that as Nigerian actors, we never struggled with that transition, but outside that forum, people struggle. For a matter of fact, you've seen it where a lot of people they stay on stage and that's it. They're happy there. Then you have the likes of us who can go in and out, weave in and out, very very naturally, no stress, no hassle, which is a plus,
Oh,
which is a plus.
absolutely, man.
You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
which is a plus. And do you remember your first TV? The director, the environment, the actors. Do you remember what
I
was the greatest memory
I
to this
I
day?
remember my first TV appearance very well because I was still in the university. I was in my first year. I was in my second year in the university, and again, the stage becoming the place where I was found. One of the television producers in a TV station we call NTA Benin had come to watch the stage play that I was in. And at the end of the play, he went to meet my lecturer and said, "Look, that boy, I love him. I love his work, and I would love to invite him to NTA Benin to try to audition for a new play that they were doing." And I went for the audition and I got the lead part. And I went into that production. The production was they were going to put it for the national competition for all the for play television film for that year. I think it was 1982 or 81, 82. And that film, that television film, that made for television film went on to win the national prize. It's called The Wrath of the Gods, written by a guy called GK, who is a musician, who, by the way, lives in the UK now. You know, so now, Oris, to give you perspective, now when that film was playing nationally, it had made the rounds all over Nigeria. But because I was in school, I really didn't understand what had happened to my status or what had happened to me personally in the eyes of those who knew me. So fast forward, the first holiday that I was going to leave, the holiday after the TV thing had been shown, I went home to Warri, where I live with my mom and my dad. I went to see her. Usually when I get to Warri, she's in her shop in the market. I will go to her shop, take the keys from her, and I go home. So I just went naturally the same way I used to go. And the minute I stepped into the market and greeted the first woman that knew me and my mom, you know, it was like a mob flash. In less than 5 minutes, kids and young boys and girls had gathered around me and started calling me Emeka. Emeka must die. Ungozi must live. It was a line from the movie. Emeka must die. Ungozi must live. And they lifted me up on their shoulders and started dancing and dancing around the market. And I just kept like, what's going on there? Like, we saw you on television. We saw you on television. And they wouldn't let me get to my mother's shop. It took over an hour. Oris, it took over an hour to get me. They danced and danced and danced and danced and brought me to my mother's shop. By this time, women, my mother's friends had sat in her shop waiting for me. The market had stopped. Literally, the market in Warri stopped. So what had happened was that, they had seen it. My mom had become a celebrity, because I look back now, I cannot recall any other person in Warri at the time who was on television. So it was a big deal. One of their own have gone to university and had gotten onto television, and he's coming back home. He's a hero. And, but I didn't know what I had done. I just appeared on TV. For me, I'm studying theater arts. I just appeared on TV and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, when I graduate, but I didn't know the impact it had it had caused to Warri. And so that was the end of my being able to just walk into any place all through that holiday. So I became a prisoner of so I experienced fame at a very early stage in my life, because I was 19. I had just turned 19 years old. I was living in Warri, a student of University of Benin, and immediately I had become a local hero in my little town because I appeared in a television movie. So that
Wow.
for me that is still the biggest memory of me as an actor I've ever had, and also biggest experience, life-changing experience. And I'll tell you why this was important for me. When I told my mom in 1980, a year before then, that I was going to, my mom was an illiterate. She wasn't educated, and I said to her, I was going to study theater arts. My uncle, who was there, her cousin, who was going to take me to school, was very upset with me. He was saying I had no business going to school to go and play my life away. I should be studying law, instead of going to study this stupid theater arts when I come out of university. So I want to be playing my life all over the place. My mother was crying, and I'm an only child. Once my mother starts to cry, I start to cry, and I just remember in all of that confusion telling her that, Mom, don't worry. This thing I'm going to study is not as bad as your cousin is saying it. You will see me on television or inside television at some point in my life. So television was always a great deal, big deal in Nigeria at the time. I mean, you don't see people who are on television. They are either people in government or the people who are reading the news. They were like gods. You don't see them. And so if your child tells you you will be seeing him on television, that meant the child was going to be very important, So my mom didn't need to wait for her child to graduate to see the effect of that thing he was going to study in the university that was not law, but was also important enough to make him appear on television. So it took just 1 year, and her fears were dissipated, and she felt like, yes, my son is studying something in the university that is very important. Look, he's on television, and like they said, the rest is history. I've never looked back since then, and till today, I'm still on television telling her that I made it. So you know,
It's it's interesting because by the way, you for those of you watching who've just joined us, Richard is where he comes from is not too far from where I grew up as a kid. I grew up in Benin. My parents are from Urobo. They're from Sapele, Ogara, Mosoga. My father, of course, went to Ugele Government College. So it's all in that vicinity.
yeah.
And here we are, worldly people having this very deep, ingrained conversation about home. So this part where Rich is from, Warri, is used to be one of our biggest ports. I'm sure you could elaborate on
Oh,
that.
oh
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
one of our
I
biggest
mean,
ports to
so
the rest of the
yeah.
world.
So there was Lagos, and then there was the Warri port, of course. If things were not coming to Lagos, they were coming to Warri.
Yes, yes.
Unfortunately, that whole importance of that. My father worked at the ports. My father was retired as a port manager in NPA Warri. So I know much about that port. It was a port town. Lots of things were imported through there. An important oil town as well as, of course, as you know, they call it the oil town. Shell had this very strong presence in Warri in those days. All of that too has also been dissipated. I think Shell has officially left Warri as well as a company. But that's the backdrop, that I grew up in.
Wow. So now this area is now what we call Delta State.
Delta State, yes, exactly, yes, yes,
Delta
yes.
State. Richard, it's interesting because you pretty much summed up where you're from, where your name originated from, and where you originated from. Um, but where did that love for the arts? There must have been someone or somebody in your life that brought that out of you.